Hello Tech Time Travelers, I'm presently working on a couple of documentary videos about RCA's COSMAC microprocessors and their machines, but I needed to do a little refresher on front panel entry, and I think I kind of have a neat way to do that here in my school bus, and I figure, hey, I'll bring you along. Machines like the COSMAC Microtutor are to modern computers what the Model T is to modern cars. Both will get you there, but the operation of each is vastly different. I've covered front panel operations a couple of times with varying degrees of success, starting with my video about the historic OSI Model 300 trainer board. Today we're going to be practicing with the Microtutor. To some, the old traditional front panel interface may seem intimidating, confusing, or even boring. But it's actually pretty simple and can even be kind of fun once you get the hang of it. This is getting down to about as close to hardware level as you can. Part of the reason a front panel switch setup was chosen for machines like the Microtutor was basically cost. A keypad for data entry in the mid-1970s on a computer like this would have added expense to what was supposed to be a fairly cheap machine. The Microtutor is kind of special. It was RCA's first microcomputer aimed at the hobbyist, and it featured their very first microprocessor, the 1801. The 1801 is the predecessor of the much better known 1802, which featured famously in machines like the COSMAC ELF. However, the 1801 has fewer instructions and was implemented in a two-chip design involving a microprocessor register chip and a microprocessor control chip. I'm not going to get into too much technical detail here, as I'll probably save that for a later video, but suffice to say the 1801 was only out for a very short time before the 1802 was introduced and was used in only a handful of devices. This is a very, very rare CPU, and I'm quite honestly amazed it still works. This Microtutor is equipped with 256 bytes of RAM, a veritable ocean of potential data, in these two Signetics 2606B static RAM chips. I'll have more to say on the Microtutor in my next video, but I just want to quickly point out what a nicely built machine it is, with brilliant blue PCB and everything else all nicely enclosed. This is sort of the anti-ELF, the ELF being by comparison a slightly more chaotic DIY project. Anyway, for the purposes of putting together a documentary-style video about these machines, I need to brush up on front panel operations again. I've learned this before on my ELF and got fairly quick at it, but I often go long periods without touching any of my old front panel machines, and that can have potentially catastrophic consequences when I'm confronted with a situation where I need to enter data on a front panel very fast.
Okay, so the next byte to disarm the bomb is EC.
Shit, I don't know the binary code for C.
It's, damn. I really wish I'd written this down. I think it's 1110?
You think?
I'm just doing the math on my fingers here.
What?
I think so.
Finger math?
Yeah, 1110. Yeah, final answer.
Okay, entered. Oh crap.
Crack squirrel here.
Cut! You're not crack squirrel today. You're...
Meth squirrel?
No, you're space squirrel, remember?
Oh yeah.
Quiet on the set. Action! What the hell is that?
Space squirrel here.
I've got my handy COSMAC Microtutor manual, handy here, which is kind of like a school textbook for the Microtutor, which gives you the ins and outs of how it and the 1801 CPU work. I believe it was written by the inventor behind the 1801 and 1802 himself, Joseph Weisbecker. There's a very nice little foreword here at the front. The program I've chosen to demonstrate for this video is called Hex Reflex. With this game, which is really an educational lesson in disguise, the Microtutor will put out a hexadecimal character on the right side of the 2-digit display. My task is to set the right-handmost 4 data switches correctly to match the number. But there is a time limit of a couple seconds, so I have to be fast. Each time I get it right, I get a point, and the total score is displayed on the left side of the display to a maximum of hexadecimal 15, or as displayed on the Microtutor, hexadecimal F. I'm hoping doing this a bunch of times will help me pick up the pace a bit with my data entry and remember how to set the switches reliably without having to constantly refer to notes. Apart from that, it will also allow me to check in with the Microtutor and make sure the CPU and RAM to some degree still work, which is always an uncertain proposition when you're dealing with a machine that's almost as old as I am. So let's have a look at the microtutor's front panel, shall we? We've got a row of data entry switches. We've also got our 2-digit LED hexadecimal display, and finally 4 control switches and buttons. From the left to right, we have the in button, which when the machine is in load mode takes whatever value we have set on the data switches and loads it into the next address in memory. Beside it, we have the load or LD switch. When this switch is set to the on position, it allows data to be entered or programmed into memory. When it's set down or off, memory is protected. Over on the other side of the display, we have the clear or CL key. When we press this, it resets the program counter and returns us to address 0. Unlike other machines like the OSI 300, the microtutor doesn't show us what memory address it is sitting at, nor do we have the ability to select a specific memory address to go to. Our only way of knowing which address we're at is to reset and keep track mentally from 0. And that's probably one of the reasons why the microtutor only has 256 bytes of memory, because much more than that and things would start getting confusing really fast. The final switch is ST. I wasn't able to figure out from the manual what it actually stands for, but I think it might be either start or step. We usually use this to start our programs or step through them byte by byte. So at the bottom here we have a total of 8 switches, each representing 1 bit. Altogether we have 1 byte, which is 8 bits or 8 switches. Each set of 4 switches forms 1/2 of that byte. To set each half, I simply have to flip up or down the switches in such a way that their combined values equal the hexadecimal numbers that I want. Now, why hex? Well, that's really just for the benefit of us humans. Technically, the front panel here is binary, with each switch representing 1 bit being either on or off, or a 1 or a 0. The reason we use hexadecimal notation is that it's just a bit easier for us humans to work with in our brains, since binary can get long and confusing being composed only of 1s and 0s. Each 4 bits of a binary number converts to one single hex digit, greatly simplifying things for the user. Hexadecimal has 16 digits, which dovetails nicely with binary, which has 2. Up to the number 9, hexadecimal is essentially the same as decimal. The letters A through F, however, represent the decimal values 10 through 15, respectively. Remember that hexadecimal starts at 0, and that 0 counts as one of the 16 digits. So the last hex digit is the letter F. You've probably seen hex around if you were like me, a kid trying to figure out how a program's copy protection scheme worked, for educational purposes. Anyway, using hex means it's easier to remember what you're entering, easier to check what you've entered, and it also means that the data display on machines like the microtutor can be compact, using just 2 LED digits instead of a bunch of individual LED lights like on my Altair. Each switch represents a power of 2. The red switches are 2 to the power of 0, which is 1. To their right, 2 to the power of 1 is 2. Next, 2 to the power of 2 is 4. And finally, 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So let's say I want to enter a hexadecimal value of 01. For the switches in the left bank, I leave them all off, and that gives me a 0. For the switches on the right bank, I need to set the red switch, representing 2 to the power of 0, or 1, up. That gives me a binary code of 00000001, or hexadecimal 1. I hope I didn't put too many zeros in there. And then I press the in button. Likewise, if I want hexadecimal 02 for my next byte, I again leave all the switches on the left set to 0, and then make sure that only the 2 to the power of 1 switch is flipped up. And when I enter this into memory, voila, hexadecimal 02, or binary 00000010. Now, what do I do if I want to input, say, hexadecimal 03? Well, that involves a bit of math. There's no switch designated for the number 3, but I can achieve 3 by setting appropriate switches that equal 3 when added together. In this example, I again leave the 4 leftmost switches down, or off, and activate the final 2 switches on the left, representing 2 and 1 respectively. 2 plus 1 equals 3. If I wanted to do hexadecimal 10, represented by the letter A, I activate switches 3 and 1. 8 plus 2 equals 10, or A. The same system applies to the 4 switches on the left. If I wanted to do something like hexadecimal 33, I'd have to set switches 5 and 4, as well as 1 and 0 to on. It's pretty simple. The trick is remembering what adds up to what on the switches. Okay, so let's get out our COSMAC manual here and start entering this program. I'm going to put the microtutor into load mode and then reset and start at address 0 by hitting the CL or clear button. Now I slowly flip switches and enter this 40-byte program listed in the guide, while thanking the digital gods that this program isn't 256 bytes. I'm going to leave this part of the video in real time just so you can get a sense of the process and how long it takes. You'll notice from time to time I have to pause and do some mental math or give up and refer to a chart when I forget what some of the upper numbers are. My brain isn't as fast as it used to be, and above hexadecimal 9, it takes me a while sometimes to remember what letter symbol represents what number, and then convert into binary. But I do get a little faster and remember more as I go, which is the whole point of this exercise. You can see how this would have been a fairly tedious process to undertake for programs much larger than 40 bytes, for sure. It's a little like my Ford Model T comparison. Taking a Model T for a drive initially is really interesting. It's not simply a matter of hitting the gas pedal to accelerate, you have to adjust timing and throttle via controls on the steering column. I'm sure I'd enjoy the novelty of taking a Model T out for a quick ride, but a long drive would probably get pretty tiresome. Likewise with the Microtutor, I once keyed in the famous COSMAC ELF Starship display program on my original ELF to make use of its Pixie 1861 graphics chip, but it took eons to enter in all the data bytes required to form the picture, and I was definitely quite over the novelty of front panel ops by that point. Anyway, the main goal of something like this was to teach the fundamentals, learning what a microprocessor's opcodes were and how they worked, how to manipulate information stored in registers, and how to optimize what you were programming to deal with memory constraints or to make the program execute as efficiently as possible. Anyway, I'm talking away here. Why don't I let you enjoy the ASMR value of the front panel switch clicks? And just 2.5 minutes later, we've entered all 40 bytes. Wow, what a workout. I'm just going to run through quickly here and check to make sure everything I entered is correct. And it is. Alright, switching from load mode to protect mode, and we'll reset. And now we start the program. So now to practice speed entering hexadecimal digits by hitting the in button. And the first digit to appear on the right is a 6. And knowing what a 6 is, I switch up the switches representing 4 and 2 on the right side, which adds up to 6. And just in the nick of time, I get a point displayed on the left. I hit in again, and now I'm confronted with a hexadecimal C. And I've forgotten what C is. C is decimal 12, so yeah, according to my chart here, it should be binary 1100 or 8 plus 4. But I'm not fast enough here to put that together, as I only have a couple of seconds to get my switches right, and I miss. Anyway, you get the idea here. This program is a pretty nifty learning aid, and mastering it will certainly help with other machines that use a similar front panel design. You can see I struggle particularly with getting switches reset from a previous number and then back up again to the next one. I'm not exactly sure if it's supposed to take my input, register a score, and move on. It seems like I have to hit the in button to advance. I could cheat a little and turn down the CPU speed using the potentiometer up top here, but I won't do that. I gotta learn. Dang nabbit, this is hard. The hex letter digits keep tripping me up. Also, I think I've figured out how it advances. I have to return all the data switches to the off position before moving to the next number. I think that's to prevent an incorrect number from being automatically registered at the next round. And finally, after some error, I hit the highest possible score, F. Nice. I hope this short little programming exercise was interesting to watch. In future videos, we'll try more involved programs and see how those work. Something that never ceases to amaze me is how much programmers back then could figure out how to do with so little hardware. The RCA COSMAC Microtutor is a rare and historic device. I'm so glad it works after nearly 50 years. Take that, Lenovo. And that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. These help me figure out what people want to watch. And again, thanks so much for watching.